Hi everyone, my name is Giovanna Proença and today we're gonna work with WORDLE50 problem set 2 of CS50. So basically in this problem, before we see what we have to do, I would like to show a little bit how it's gonna work, okay? So I already have here the code for the final resource. So let's see what's going on. Basically, we're gonna run our file with the name of the file and we're gonna set a number. So for example, 5. It can be 5, 6, 7 or 8 for the length of the word we're gonna work. So if I run it in here, it will display this is word 50. You have 6 tries to guess the 5-letter word in I'm thinking of. And now we have to guess what is this word that they are expecting us to guess. Okay, so here they're gonna ask for us for a word, and you can set any word with 5 letters. I'm saying about. Once I click enter, and now this guess one will be our job in here. Basically, we have to tell if the user have the correct answer or not, and we're gonna say if the letter that the user added is in the correct place, it will be green. If it's in the wrong place, it will be yellow, like the letter T. Here we know that we have the letter T, but it's not in this position. And if the letter is in red, this means that we don't have this letter in our word. Okay, if I say for example green, it will tell us that we have E but we don't have G, R and N. If I say I don't know tools, it will tell us here for example we have the letter L in the correct position because here it's green and we don't have the correct position for T and S. And we're going to continue trying to find the correct word. Here I'm gonna say some words that doesn't exist. Okay, and that's it. Let me put another code, CS50 for example, and then once the user tries 6 times, we're gonna say if the user lose or not. Okay, if the user lose, we're gonna say you lose and the correct word was, and then we're gonna display the correct word. Here it's a style. If the user make it correctly, if we have the correct guess, we're gonna stop our code and we're gonna display that the user won. Okay, so this is basically what we have to do. But as I mentioned, we need to implement this idea of checking the letters, see if we're receiving the correct thing. Okay, so we're gonna do everything with time. We have a couple of things to see in our code and we're gonna dig into each particular part in a bit. Okay, so let's see what we have so far. Basically here we are we're installing the libraries and we are defining a variable called list size 1000. So basically we're creating a global variable called list size, and it contains 100 as a value. Then we are creating more 3 variables called exact that has value 2, close that has value 1, and wrong that has value 0. In the future we're gonna see that we're gonna use this exact, close and wrong to display here the colors, okay, to give a score for us. We have here the colors green, yellow, red and reset to display here the colors for us, and we're gonna see how we're gonna implement this. And we have 3 functions that we're gonna work. Okay, so I'm not gonna check this so much right now. Here, before we checking the whole code, let's see what we have. We're calling the main function, and here we have the int argc string argv. So this gives us an idea that probably our code will expect to work with the command line argument. And as we know, when we're calling our function, we're expecting to send here a number. Okay, so we're gonna do some changes in here. Let's work with the command line arguments, and then we're able to see what's going on in the rest of our code. Okay, so let's see here in the CS50 requirement. So in the first to do, you should ensure the programs accept a single command line argument. Let's call it K for the sake of discussion. If the program was not run with a single command line argument, you should print the error message as we demonstrate above and return 1 ending the program. So what we have to do, if the user run the code only saying the name of the file, we have to say here, display this message and stop our code. Okay, because this means that the user didn't send us a command line arg. So let's start with that. All right, so here ensure proper usage. So basically here in our to-do, we're gonna check if the user is giving us at least 2 command line arguments. So we're gonna say if, and remember that argc is an integer, as we can see here on line 26, and argc stores the length of the arguments we have in our terminal. If you remember from the lecture, basically the name of the file here is already one element, so this is the name of the file, and the second one is our second element. So we need to check if argc is different than 2, because if it is, this means that we're not receiving the proper usage. So I'm gonna say if argc is different than 2, I wanna print a message, and the error message will be exactly as CS50 gave to us. So I'm gonna copy this, great, and I'm gonna put here to go to the next line, and they're telling us to return the number 1, and we can see here in the specification they are telling us return 1 ending the program. So here I'm gonna return 1. Okay, so let's test if it's working. So if I clear make Wordle, great. If I run here Wordle with no extra command line argument, it will display for us usage Wordle word size. If I run in here with 3 command line arguments, it will display the same thing. And if I put in here 1 single command line argument, okay, now we have another bug because we're not working with this yet, but at least we're passing through the first to do. Okay, then so here we're doing this checking, then we're creating a variable called word size equals to 0, and now we have our second to do. So let's take a look here in the specification. In the second to do, you should make sure that the value that we're receiving the command line argument is one of the acceptable values. So it should be 5, 6, 6, 7, or 8, and store that value in word size. We will need to make use of that later. If the value of the command line argument we are receiving is not one of those 4 values exactly, you should print the error message as we demonstrate above and return 1, ending the program. So let's see what's going on. Basically, if we run our code with a value 4, we have to display this error message in here because we have to store our word size should be either 5, 6, 7, or 8. Okay, so if it's not one of those 4 numbers, we're gonna get out of our code. Okay, so how can we do this? Now we're gonna work with our command line argument on position 1. Okay, so what are we gonna do now? Basically, we need to check if our argv has the same value as 5, 6, 7, or 8. So how are we gonna do this? We're gonna do a loop, and we're gonna loop from 5 to 8, all right? And then in each iteration, we're gonna check if the argv, the command line argument, is equals to one of those numbers. If it is, we're gonna assign this number to our word size variable. And in the future, we're gonna do the checking dimension. Okay, so here I'm gonna do int I equals to 5, because we wanna start looping. The argv1 should be either 5, 6, 7, or 8. Then I wanna loop until I is less than or equals to 8. We wanna check these 4 numbers, and I wanna increase the value of I. Then we're gonna do a if statement. Here we're gonna check if our argv1 is equals to our I. Okay, so this way we're gonna check if our argument is equals to 5, 6, 7, or 8. And if it is, we're gonna change our word size variable that we initialized here on line 35 to be equals to our value of I. Okay, but if we run this code, it won't work because this argv, as we know, it's a string. Okay, and we need to convert this string into an integer. Otherwise, we're not able to compare the numbers 5, 6, 7, and 8 with our argument. So how are we gonna do this? If you remember from the practice problem, and you can check here the card that we have the video for this problem already, we have one problem where we have to create an atoy function. But in this case, you don't need to build this atoy function because it already exists here in our CS50 manual pages. Basically, it's a function that converts a string to an int. So we just need to call the function atoy, and we put the string inside, and it will convert. So for example, if we have a 5 as a string, and it will convert this 5 to an integer. Okay, so this is exactly what we're gonna do. I'm gonna say atoy around our argv on position 1. Okay, so this for loop, we're always checking if our argument is equal to 5, 6, 7, or 8. If at some point this is true, we're gonna change the value of word size, and then we need to check if here. What are we gonna check? We're gonna check if at some point the value of word size is not equal to 0. Because if the word size is equal to 0, this means that the user didn't give us the correct value. So this means that the user didn't give us 5, 6, 7, or 8 that are the acceptable word sizes. So we're gonna do if word size is equals 0, we're gonna print f the error message, this error message that we saw. I'm going to go to the next line, and we need to return 1 as they meant. Okay, so let's test if it's working. If I run here make WORDLE, it is complaining about the function printf. Oh, I wrote it not the correct way. I said print. Yes. So if I run WORDLE, and if I say WORDLE number 2, it will tell us this error message. Word size must be either 5, 6, 7, or 8. But if I run with number 7, okay, it's starting our code. Okay, so we're pretty much going there. Now, to see what is the next step we have to do, I want to run the debugger here so we can see what's going on. All right, so I'm going to do debug50, and I'm going to say WORDLE5. All right, and let's see what's going on in here. So now we're calling our debug50 passing the number 5, okay? And here we have argc with 2 elements because we have the name of the file and the word size we want. And here in the argv, we can't see exactly what is written, but we have the name of the file and the number. So now we see that argc is equals to 2, so we're going to skip this if statement, and we're going to our line 35, where we're initializing our word size equals to 0. And then we're going to do the for loop to check if the word size we're giving is the correct word size. So now for I equals to 5, this is the first iteration, we're going to check if the number 5 we sent when we ran our code, so this number 5 in here, is equals to the 5 in here, and we know that they are the same. So we're gonna enter in this if statement, and we're gonna change here the value of word size to be equals to I. So here the value of word size, if we take a look, here it's 0. When we run this line, it will be 5, okay? Because this is exactly what we are expecting. So it's gonna loop again. Now it's gonna check 6 is equals to our number 5. No, so we're not in this if statement. Then we're gonna loop again, and then we're gonna continue working in here. So if blah 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 7 is not equals to 5, so we're gonna skip, and our final iteration, we're going to check if the number we're receiving in the argument is equals to 8. We know that it's not because we know already that it's 5, so we're done with this for loop. Okay, now that we have our word size equals to 5, we're going to check if word size is equals to 0. In this case, this will be false because word size is equals to 5, so we're going to the next line. Here we're opening up a file. We're creating an array of a char with 6 elements, and we have this printf where we're going to write things in our file. Okay, so this part you don't need to understand exactly because this is something we're gonna learn in the future better in the week 4, okay? So for now, just accept what's going on. But basically the word list is the address of a file where it contains all the words we're gonna use. So for example, here we're opening up the 5.txt. That is the file with all the words that we can use in our game, okay? Then we're checking if it's no, and it isn't, so we're gonna go to the next line. And here we're loading the word file into an array of size, list size. So we're loading an array here, and this array has 1000 lines, okay, where each column, so here it's 1000 lines, so 1000 words, and all the words contain 5 letters, okay? So the word size, and here it's 5 letters plus 1 because we need the no terminate operator that we have normally in the end of a string, okay? And again, this is not so important. I just want to show you what's going on. Then we're gonna do a for loop in this file, and we're gonna store in our code all the words we have, okay? So here we're storing all the words we have. So let me show you. We're gonna add here in our word list. Let me see. We're gonna add here in our option. So now option is empty, but once I run this line here, this will contain the first letter that it's about. The first word. Then we're gonna loop again, and we're gonna assign in our next item the second word we have in our file. Okay, so this is pretty much here. In this iteration, we're only getting all the words we have in our txt file and storing here in this array. So I'm gonna go to the next step because here we have 1000 words and we don't need to worry about that. Okay. Then we have this pseudo randomly select a word for this game. So here, since we're working with a guess game, we're gonna select one word in our list of words to be the guess word for us. So basically here we're storing in choice, and you're gonna find out that in our choice we're working here with the word, let's see, the word key, okay? So this is the word that our user has to guess, all right? Then here we are creating a variable called guesses, and we're accepting 6 guesses in this case. So here we have word size that is 5 plus 1, so we're accepting 6 guesses from our user. And we are creating here in the next line, so here guesses will be equal to 6, and here we're creating a boolean variable called won, and we're gonna set to false because anyone won yet our code, okay? Then we're gonna print f a message. So here we're printing f the message. Let me show you this is WORDLE50, and now we're gonna say that you have 6 tries to guess the 5-letter word I'm thinking, okay? This is all already built by CS50, so we don't need to worry about. Then now this is the main loop for the game. So basically here is how everything's going on. So by mistake I clicked to go back and I lost all my debugger. So now we have a different word, all right? It's tie right now. And let's see what's going on. So here this is the main part of our code, of our game, okay? We're gonna loop through all the guesses. So here we're gonna keep looping until the user gives us the correct word, or until we reach the end of the 6 tries we have, okay? So here we're looping through this. And the first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna call this function getGuess. And the getGuess, we're sending the word size. Whatever this function will return to us will be a string, and we're gonna store in a variable called guess, okay? And now we have to work with our getGuesses. So let's see what's going on. We're sending the word size, so we know that the word size is 5. And basically, if I expanding here, we need to ensure users actually provide a guess that is the correct length, okay? So now we're gonna ask for the user for a message, okay? We're gonna ask the user here using the get string, and we need to check if the user gave to us a word that has the correct length, all right? So let's see here what they say in the to-do 3. So here, basically, we're gonna prompt the user. All guesses in the game should be in lowercase characters, and it's acceptable for you to assume that the user will not be so stubborn as to provide anything other than lowercase characters. So here we don't need to worry about converting lowercase to uppercase, or actually uppercase to lowercase. We don't need to worry about that. We're gonna keep asking the user for a string until the user gives us the correct length. Okay, so what are we gonna do? Do you remember the while loop from our Mario? Well, we're gonna use this in here. Basically, we're gonna keep looping until the user gives us the correct output. Okay, so how it's gonna work? Basically, in here, we're gonna do the following. I wanna ask the user for a guess. So here I'm gonna call the variable guess, and I'm gonna use the get string function, and I'm gonna display the message. What is the message we want to display? I want to display input a 5-letter word, okay? This is pretty much what we want. And when we're going to stop this while loop, we're going to continue doing this while loop, while the user doesn't give us the correct length for this word. So then we're going to keep doing this until the length of the word of the guess is different than 5, okay? So while star length of guess is different than 5. So this is pretty much what we have to do, okay? So just to make it clear again. We're gonna ask the user for this message, and if the user type in a message, a string with less than 5 letters or more than 5 letters, we're gonna ask the user again, because here, this is our condition. Once the user type in a word with 5 letters, we get out of this loop and we return the guess, all right? The guess of the user. So let's see how what's going on. I'm gonna make here our code again, so make Wordle, and I'm gonna run the debugger again. And I wanna start the debugger in here, in our line 117, okay? So let me click enter. So here we are again. We're calling the function getGuess, and whatever this function returns to us, we're gonna store in the string guess. So let's see what's going on. In here, we're creating a variable called guess, and it's an empty string, okay? And we're gonna do our do while loop. So first we're gonna ask the user for a string. So if I click in here, we're gonna see this message, input a 5-letter word. What if I input a 4-letter word? If I put love, we only have 4 letters. Then it's gonna store in guess the word love, and we're gonna check. The length of our guess variable, it's 4, because love has 4 letters. Since 4 is different than 5, we're gonna loop again, okay? So we're gonna ask the user for a message. If I say here about, and about has 5 letters, we're going to get out of our return guess, and we're gonna be back in here, okay, to our line 87. But my debugger didn't work, and it's okay. Let's continue. And it's already giving us a guess and asking us again, because it's gone too far from what we should. So let's run all of this over again. Okay, so here we are. If I say about, we're done in here. We're out of our loop, and we're gonna return the word guess to our main function, okay? And here, guess, if you see where it is, guess here is the word about. But our choice, what we have to be correct, is the word test. So we don't have the correct word yet. And we're gonna handle this in a bit. Now we have an array to hold guess status, initialize set to 0. So basically here we have a status array where we're gonna store the status of each word, of each letter. If we got the correct letter in the correct position, if the letter is correct but not in the correct position, or if we don't have this letter in our word, okay? And here we're just initializing the array, we're not adding any value, all right? Now our next step is set all elements of status array initialized to 0, aka wrong. So now all the letters in our status we're gonna initialize as wrong, okay? And in the future we're gonna change this. So how can we do this? So basically here we're gonna do a loop, and we're gonna loop through all the elements we have in our status array, and we're gonna initialize as 0, aka wrong. Okay, so here we're gonna do for j equals to 0, j less than word size. And why word size? Because we know the length of our array is word size, j plus plus, and in here we're gonna initialize that particular element. So here status on position j will be equals to 0. You can set it equals to 0, or we can use our global variable wrong, and we can say here wrong instead of 0. So here I would say wrong, and then we're gonna see this status equals to 0. So let's see what's going on. I'm gonna rerun our code, and we will see what's happened. So if I done here make Wordle, okay, it's complaining about this variable j. So instead of using j, I'm gonna use in here k, for example, just to be a little bit different. Let me see if this make our code work. No. Oh, okay, here I should say int k equals to 0. That's the reason why we were not saying what is the type. And now if I run debug50 WORDLE50, let's see what's going on. Let's stop from we are in here. So here they are asking me for a guess. I'm gonna say about. Our correct word is there. My guess was about, and now we have a status array, and we're going to initialize all of these elements to 0. Okay, so this is what we're doing in this for loop. I'm going to reach the first element, status on position 0, and we're going to see here that now it will become 0. Great. And we're going to do this for the next item. Here it will become 0, and we're going to continue doing this for all of the elements. Okay, so until all of these elements are equals to 0. And why it's important? This status will help us knowing what will be the color we're going to display for the word. Okay, then I come a little bit ahead from what we need. We have our function, we have a variable here called score, and we're calling the function check word, and we're sending the guess that it's about, the word size that is 5, the status array that is our empty our status that contains all 0 for now, and our choice that is the word there. Okay, now our check word, in our check word it will be a little bit complicated, but basically we're gonna compare guess to choice and score points as appropriate, storing points in status. The fifth task in the game is to write a function to check the word guessed by the player and assign a score based on its accuracy. The function takes two inputs, the word guessed by the player guess and the secret word choice. The function then loops through each letter of the guess and compare it with each letter of the choice. If a letter in the guess matches a letter in the choice exactly, the function awards the player 2 points and breaks out of the loop, and there is no need to continue checking. If the letter in the guess is found in the choice but not in the right place, the function awards the player 1 point but continues checking the rest of the letters. At the end, the function returns the total score of the word guessed by the player. So now this function, it will create that idea of having. We're gonna give some values for example, if the word is wrong, we're gonna give a sign 0. Here it's red, it will be 0. If it's the correct letter but in the wrong position, we're gonna give a value 1. And if it's correct, we're gonna give a value 2. So now we're gonna check if the guess is correct or not according to our option. So now let's go to the worst part of the problem. Basically, here in the check word, we're gonna loop through each letter of our guess. So here, for example, A, and we're gonna loop through each letter of our choice. Okay, so we're gonna loop through T, H, E, R, E, and for the guess A, B, O, U, and T. Okay, so we're gonna loop through each letter of our guess. Then we need to loop through each letter of our choice, and we're gonna check if that letter of our guess is in the same position of our choice. So, for example, if we had A in the first letter and for the guess and for the choice, we're gonna